Hello! Welcome to episode 1 of our verse tutorial series. In this episode, we'll be learning how to make our first verse device, putting that in our island, and seeing the results of that in-game. We won't be covering any advanced topics, like types, classes, objects. Those will be for future episodes. For now, let's just focus on getting a creative device in our island and watching it work. So, to start, I'm going to assume that you both have UEFN installed and open, and Visual Studio Code as well. You'll need both of those programs to continue the tutorial series here. So in UEFN, I have the blank project template open. You can do this in any project. I recommend doing this in a project without verse code already, just in case any weird things happen. But for now, this is what I'll be using. To get started, you'll want to find this Verse Explorer tab. Now this should be next to your outliner. If it's not, for some reason, I'm going to go ahead and close mine just as an example. In case you don't have one or you accidentally closed it, you can get that tab back open by going up here to the top of UEFN, clicking this Verse button that says Verse Commands when you hover over it, and Verse Explorer is the one you want to open. And that should bring up this tab next to your outliner. Once that tab's open, and we're really only going to have to do this one time, but for the first time, you'll want to click on this should be your project name. In this case, my project name is Verse Tutorials. I'll right click on that and I'll do add new verse file to project. This will open a new window inside of UEFN and it'll give us a few templates to choose from as well as let us configure it. So I'm going to leave this on verse device. That's what we'll be creating today. And for my device name, I'll be renaming this. So the correct naming convention for verse classes and devices is what's called snake case. So in this case, we have lowercase letters, and then we have underscores separating different words. So instead of hello world device, which is the one that Epic's going to give us, I'm just going to change this to verse tutorials device. And then I'm going to go ahead and click create. You can click create empty, but it will not give you all this preview code, and we'll be using this for the episode. So I'll just go ahead and click create here. Once that happens, the editor freezes for just a brief moment, but as you can see, nothing really happens. We get a new folder inside of our Verse Explorer called Content, and then we have our verse file inside of there. To get to that file, you can double click on this, I'm fairly sure, but I always just use this first button up here, not the one at the top, but this one in the second row, and this will open the project. So I'll do that. Should open your Visual Studio Code, and here we go. Verse tutorials device.verse, that's the name of my file. And you can see that we have a bunch of text here. Don't worry about what all this text says or means. We'll be going over this in future episodes. The only thing I really want you to care about right now is on line 14 and line 15. As you can see here, inside of this on begin thing, again, we'll cover this in the future, we have these two print statements, right? Every time we have a new line that's doing something, we usually call that a statement. All right, now that we have this file here, we can go ahead and return to UEFN. And we're going to want to do something called building our code. So we can go up to this verse button, again at the very top. We're going to click it, and we're going to click build verse code. The hotkey for that is Control-Shift-B. You can feel free to use that whenever. I'll be using this drop down just so it's clear whenever I build my code. I'll hit build verse code. The editor will freeze again just for a quick moment. And then as you can see, nothing really happened. However, if I open my content drawer, and I navigate to my project, so here's the base folder and then here's my content, you can see there's a new folder that was created for us called Creative Devices. And this was created specifically because of the type of verse file we made, and we'll go over that in the next episode. For now, don't worry about that too much, just open that folder, and there should be a file in here, whatever you named your verse device. Here's mine, Verse Tutorials device. I'm just going to take that and drag that into my project. As you can see, it created, if I go to my outliner here, it created an actual actor inside of my scene. And we have a couple of user options, visible in game. Generally, you'll want this off. For now, I'm just going to leave it on, as it doesn't matter. And enabled at game start, you'll almost always want this on. There's maybe some rare circumstances where you don't want this enabled at game start, but for now, we're just going to leave that on. I'll go ahead and save my project here with Control-S. And then I'm going to want to push my changes. And obviously we added a new actor into the island, so I'll need to do a full push here. So I'll use my push changes and I'll be right back once Fortnite updates. Now that we're back in Fortnite and we're all up to date, I'm going to go ahead and start my game. As you can see, our verse device is here in our island as we expected. And if I hit start game, we should see briefly at the top left of my screen, hello world, and 2 plus 2 equals 4. Now, as you'll remember in our Visual Studio Code, that's what we were printing here. So that makes sense. If I go ahead and stop my island real quick, I'm just going to make a brief change to this. You can follow along if you'd like, or just watch me do it. I'm going to change these print statements, and in fact, I'm going to make another one. So instead of saying hello world, I'm going to say hi, I'm Carter. I'm going to make a new print statement. I'm just going to copy this line. I'm going to hit Control D, by the way, to copy current line down. That might be different on your editor. I can't remember if I have custom keybinds on right now or not. I'm going to change hi, I'm Carter to man, I feel like programming. And then in my third print statement here, I'm going to change 2 plus 2 equals 2 plus 2 to, let's just do 5 plus 10 equals 15. Now I can write it out like this, or I can write it out how they had it. So instead of doing 15 here, we put these little curly brackets and we do 5 plus 10, and we'll get into why we can do this in the future. But as we save here, we should expect to see now when we load up our island, it should say, hi, I'm Carter, man, I feel like programming, and 5 plus 10 equals 15. Let's head back over to UEFN real quick. And in order for those changes to take effect, we need to do what's called building verse code, as we explained earlier. So we'll go back up to our verse button up here at the very top, click the drop down, build verse code. Again, that's Control-Shift-B if you just want to be speedy about it. And once that's done, we'll see a new button appears here next to our push changes button called push verse changes. Now, whenever this pops up, this means that the compiler has detected changes in our code base, right? We've made changes to our actual programming, our code, and so this has detected it and says, hey, do you want to just push the code base? We can do that, and it'll be a lot faster to use this. So as a rule of thumb, if you only change something inside of your text editor, instead of Visual Studio Code, like our print statements here that we changed, we can go ahead and safely push verse changes without any negative repercussions. Now, if I were to add something into the island, let's say I added a prop in or volume or some kind of device, we would want to save that and push all changes because it's more than just the code base that has changed at that point. And this will take significantly longer, as I'm sure you're aware of. Pushing verse changes, however, is almost immediate. So if I go ahead and do that, we'll see that our session is updating. Within a few seconds, it's done. If I look at Fortnite, it's already done. We're back to edit mode and we're up to date. So if I go ahead and start game and we pay attention to the top left of our screen, we should see the new print statements that we made. Hi, I'm Carter, man, I feel like programming, 5 plus 10 equals 15. All right, that's exactly what we expected, and I think that's a great place to wrap this video up here. In this video, just one more time, we covered how to make our first verse device, how to make our first verse class, how to build our code, and how to push our code into Fortnite. In the next episode, we'll be diving deeper into what it means to make a verse device. What that on, begin, and those using statements are. We'll be covering those in the next couple episodes, so stay tuned. I'm Carter. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.